Hello and welcome, dear friends. Today we are going to discuss an important topic, that is advent of iron technology. After going through this lecture, you will be able to understand the emergence of iron in West and Central Asia, understand the processes of iron similarity, locate the origins and use of iron in various parts of the world. Introduction. The beginning of the Iron Age coincides with the decline of Bronze Age cultures, changes in warfare, the arrival of nomadic people, changes in trade relations, etc. The most notable effect of iron was the transformation of military tactics in terms of weapons, armory, chariots. By the 8th to 7th century BCE, iron was gradually incorporated into agricultural tools, which had a significant social and economic impact. Utilizing hoes, plowshares, and other implements made of iron would allow for technological advancements in the agricultural industry. Better production and socio-economic changes were the result of this. In contrast to bronze, which was a rare metal because copper and tin were difficult to obtain by, iron ore was abundantly available everywhere. As a result, it had a more profound effect on society than was evident earlier with the use of bronze. It was thought that the switch from bronze to iron as the preferred metal had substantially changed society, particularly in terms of technology. According to L.H. Morgan, cited by J.D. Molly in 1985, the invention of iron technology was just as significant in the history of mankind as the domestication of animals. Because iron was durable and affordable, it could be utilized for both agricultural equipment and military armor and weaponry. Iron has been used since the 2nd millennium BCE, when its potential was not completely appreciated until the 7th century BCE, when it emerged as the main metal. Iron quickly rose to prominence not just for the scientific advancements it brought forth, but also for many other improvements. The widespread usage of iron can be attributed to its availability, simplicity of extraction, a chemical procedure that allows the metal to be recovered from ore while removing oxygen, and a relative hardness of the metal. According to V. Gordon Childe, who is cited by Ian Morris, cheap iron democratized warfare, industry, and agriculture. Due to its availability, iron was more readily available than bronze, which was more difficult to obtain, especially for the non-elite segments of the population. As a result, the introduction of iron resulted in significant early historical changes not only in areas of its origin, but almost in every part of this planet. The recovery of enormous quantities of daggers, amulets, and other byproducts dating to the 2nd millennium BCE are considered to be the early examples of the usage of widespread iron tools and implements. The end of the palace systems and the decline of the Bronze Age also occur at this time. Scholars such as P. Villard emphasize the connection between the fall of the Bronze Age power structures and the rise of iron as a preferred metal. He argues that new technologies such as iron smelting had a part in bringing about change, particularly in terms of military capacity, as one of the factors for such political evolution. Scholars like Mario Livarani discuss how the expansion of settlements was greater during the Iron Age than it was during the Bronze Age, and they link this to the popularity of iron. In some areas, like the Eastern Mediterranean, nomads and semi-nomads present an alternative political model. This was related to the use of iron technologies and their availability. She also talks about new state models where nomads and semi-nomads live. McNeill, who is cited by J.D. Molly, claimed that iron's function might be viewed in terms of a practical metal that was used to make armor, weapons, and other items, and was associated with waves of invasions and migrations in the Middle East about 1200 to 1000 BCE. Once the smelting process was understood, it could employ the metal on a scale that was impossible with bronze, since local sources of iron ore were typically found in every region. Because copper and tin were both rare ores, bronze, which is an alloy, was comparatively expensive metal than iron. The knowledge of iron smelting and its strength could bring in socio-military changes. This could impact a large section of the society, as it could be used in military and producing other utilitarian objects. Technology advancements alone, however, cannot fully account for social change. Instead, society should support such a change. As a result, human agency as well as socio-political and cultural forces play a significant role in bringing about change. Therefore, when discussing the role of iron in bringing about change, it is important to keep in mind the equally important roles played by other elements such as the environment, society, economics, etc. Now, technology of iron smelting. Iron smelting is a highly difficult operation. Although metalworking techniques have been used since the 6th millennium BCE in many regions of the world, ironworking needed greater technical expertise. Iron is typically melted. Its melting point is 1540 degrees Celsius compared to 1083 Celsius for copper. The next step is to purify the iron ore, which necessitates oxygen flow in the furnace. Additionally, it is necessary to maintain reduction conditions, which entails removing oxygen from the oxide ore. Because fuel must be added consistently during this process, carbon monoxide predominates over carbon dioxide. The earliest metal workers could not reach and sustain the necessary temperature, making it challenging to reach the melting point of iron in the bloomery process. As a result, a semi-solid slag was produced. When reheated, this slag was hammered into wrought iron, which was then used to create tools. Before iron could be used, the process had to be done numerous times. Iron bars and plates were fashioned from this raw iron, bloom or ingot. The ductile strength of iron in this state is comparable to that of bronze. Iron was made harder and thus more useful through the development of many techniques. Steeling of iron, also known as carburization, is one method in which the bloom directly touches the charcoal. This causes iron to absorb carbon, turning it into carbon steel. Iron is tougher in this form because it has a microstructure similar to that of steel. This method was effectively employed to create knives and blades in the Eastern Mediterranean by the 11th century BCE. The process of quenching was used to further harden iron. The quenching material was heated and then quickly cooled in water, oil, or air. The quenching procedure depends on how quickly the hot iron was cooled. However, quenching also makes the metal brittle. For this reason, tempering was employed. Iron was reheated during tempering, creating ductile and hard iron simultaneously. It might, in a sense, be molded to fit the situation. But by the 4th century BCE, this procedure had been steadily mastered. By the 7th century BCE, steel, a type of iron with a higher tensile strength, was created by the carburization and quenching processes. Then a tougher iron could be used instead of bronze to create better weapons and tools. Scholars point out that in addition to a standard process, there were regional variations in iron smelting that derived from customs or methods of working with and smelting copper. As a result, it is also thought that iron smelting began as a byproduct of copper technology. Many Bronze Age cultures, particularly those in the Eastern Mediterranean and Southwest Asia like Alaka Hayuk in central Turkey between 2500 and 2300 BCE have iron artifacts. Iron was also discovered at Troy, which is located in present-day Turkey, along with bronze artifacts. The Bronze Age's iron smelting activity disproves earlier theories about technological specialization and Hittite dominance, which will be examined later in the unit. Now we will discuss emergence of iron. Two theories have been proposed to explain the transition from bronze to iron. The circulation model suggests that when long-distance trade declined, along with the decline of bronze civilizations, there was a lack of bronze and an increase in the use of iron and iron-based economies. The deposition model, second in number, claims that iron was the best metal for daily usage because it was abundantly available. Iron became the preferred metal at this time since the process of smelting iron had been perfected. Many scholars had worked on the use and diffusion of iron technology in the world context. Scholars like Pierre Villard had suggested three stages of the usage and distribution of iron technology. The first stage, according to him, was the initial stage in which though iron items were discovered, but iron working technology was not yet developed. In the second stage, despite the superior quality of iron tools and implements, bronze continued to be used particularly for tools and weapons. Finally, copper continued to be used even after the majority of tools and weapons were made of iron. Iron was once seen as being as valuable as gold and silver during the early stages of its development. But as knowledge of its accessibility, availability, and technological capability increased, iron lost its standing as an elite metal and began to be used in common life. Now we will discuss iron symmetry. According to Yelchin, the process of iron smelting in Anatolia can be broken down into four distinct stages. The classification that he offers is comparable to that of Villard. In addition to the previous two stages, he placed the third stage between the 12th and 9th centuries BCE. This is the time when regular manufacturing of iron had started, it had become dominant, and it was utilized for making weapons, tools, and other items. Last stage, beginning in the 7th century BCE and continuing onwards, people started using iron in their everyday lives, and the number of iron-made weapons and tools expanded dramatically. According to V. Gordon Childe, the Iron Era brought about a greater expansion of civilization than the Bronze Age had. He claimed that the use of iron and the alphabet altered the dynamics between the aristocracy and the common people. With more affordable iron, farmers could better clear land with their iron tools, and commoners were no longer dependent on the wealthy household. Iron changed the status of the peasants in relation to the elites in this way. In a sense, Childe stressed the importance of technology as it brought about significant change. In a way, Childe emphasized on the prominence of technology as it brought far-reaching changes. Starting from Asia and Greece and moving towards west with the Etruscan Confederacy in Italy, dated to around 7th century BCE, and Phoenicians, a maritime trading civilization in the eastern Mediterranean region from roughly 15th century BCE. The Iron Age is the first proto-historic period in Europe and the final stage of prehistoric Europe. After the Romans conquered most of Europe, the period came to an abrupt end, but ironworking remained the dominant technology until relatively recently. Probably from the Caucasus, ironworking was introduced in Europe in the late 11th century BCE, and over the next 500 years, it progressively expanded north and west. Iron did not originally appear in Europe at the beginning of the Iron Age, but it did start to supplant bronze in the manufacture of tools and weapons. The transition to the Iron Age wasn't simultaneous throughout Europe. Regional cultural changes were important. For instance, the prehistoric Ireland Iron Age started approximately 500 BCE after the Greek Iron Age had already come to an end and ended around 400 CE. Iron technology was put into general usage in Asia and Europe simultaneously. Based on historical events, the prehistoric Iron Age in Central Europe can be divided into two periods: the Hallstatt civilization and the Latinist culture. During the Iron Age in Europe, weapons, tools, and other items got more and more complicated. These were now hammered into shapes instead of being cast, and the decorations were more complicated and curved than straight. In some ways, the shapes and decorations of the northern European weapons look like Roman weapons, but in other ways, they were unique and clearly show the art of the north. As a result, with the advent of the Iron Age, a new era of history that is distinct from the empires of the Bronze Age begins. We observe changes in political regimes, habitational growth, and technological advancement. Now, evidences. The references to the ore and production of iron are found in many textual sources as well as archaeological sites. Not only in the Central and West Asian territories, but we do have the literary references to the smelting of iron from many Vedic texts of South Asia and also from many archaeological sites as well. Now, textual and inscriptional evidences. Iron had become an important metal by the second millennium BCE. It was much valued at the time and was compared to other precious metals like gold and silver in terms of its value. Iron served as a symbol of monarchy in early texts. The Assyrian king Shalmaneser I writes that he provided precious stones, gold, silver, iron, copper, tin, etc. when he constructed the Assur temple. Tiglath-Pileser I, another Assyrian emperor, also describes his joy in possessing an iron weapon. The word iron was associated with the monarchy in Hittite texts dating back to the second millennium BCE. The king was sometimes compared to the toughness and durability of iron. Iron was therefore associated with royalty during this time because it was a precious metal. Iron and its products first appear in written records from the second millennium BCE. Early Assyrian inscriptions from Kultep, a historic trading settlement in modern-day Turkey, from the early second millennium BCE, mention using iron rather than copper as payment for gold and silver. Iron was valued at 30 times more than silver, which later underwent significant modification. Different local words were used to refer to iron. For example, the name Amutum is used to refer to iron in early Kultep documents from the second millennium BCE in the Akkadian language, but the Mesopotamians used the word Kuan. The Hittites, on the other hand, used the Sumerian word Anbar. These words denoted power and strength. As the value of iron was realized by 1800 BCE, it became a favored metal for weapons and its use grew rapidly. The archaeological records dating to this time demonstrate the prevalence of iron weapons such as knives, sword blades, daggers, etc. For example, at Elaka Huyuk, Turkey, 6 iron daggers were discovered in the royal tomb, together with other valuable goods such as pins with gold heads, etc., as early as in 2800 BCE. During battles, iron was described as both a spoil of war and a tribute. This was most likely raw iron that could be utilized as required. Tukulti-Ninurta II of Assyria recounts receiving 100 daggers as tribute. There are written references to iron usage during the 3rd 2nd millennium BCE, indicating the importance of iron in these early communities. These also indicate that iron was a valuable metal as it was listed in royal inscriptions and as valuable enough to acquire. Now, archaeological evidences. Early iron artifacts were primarily byproducts of chance, and the technological knowledge and skill of iron smelting evolved and increased with time. By the 1st millennium BCE, evidence in the form of weapons was used in Asia. After the 7th century BCE, agricultural equipment such as hoes, plowshares, and so on had been discovered in excavations around the world. The earliest archaeological evidence of an iron object is a smelted piece discovered in a burial in Samarra, northern Iraq, about the 5th millennium BCE. 3 iron balls dating from roughly 4600 to 4100 BCE were discovered in Tape Sialk, Iran. They were characterized as being hefty and hard because of their structure and high nickel content. These were assumed to have come from a meteor and as an unintended byproduct of smelting. Iron items dating from around 3000 to 2000 BCE have also been unearthed in Anatolia. Mesopotamia has yielded 9 items, including 2 broken dagger blades produced from smelted iron, 2 fragmentary tools of meteoric origin, and 5 of unknown origin. However, recent research indicates that both meteoric iron and terrestrial iron that originates on Earth, also known as telluric iron, were once precious metals with decorative and symbolic value. Ancient settlements like Khorsabad, Nineveh, and Nimrud have all produced iron artifacts that may be traced to Assyria. These include mid-9th century BC iron daggers, pinheads, swords, scabbard tips, arrowheads, spearheads, lance heads, etc. Iron armor dating to the 7th century BCE was found in Assyria. Picks, adzes, hoes, plows, knives, sickles, saws, and other tools have also been discovered in Nineveh, Khorsabad, and other locations. In the writings from this period, there are also references to iron cuffs and fetters. Iron used in the building was also discovered in Khorsabad. Large amounts of chain links and cauldron hooks have been discovered. Later, iron was also employed in a building by the Greeks and the Persians. With this, we come to the end of today's lecture. Hope you have enjoyed it well. Thank you for watching.